Well, good afternoon, folks, and thank you for joining me on this really important and I guess significant day for what we currently know as Fitness Australia. I'm just watching the people jump into this webinar. We have 600 registered. So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for your interest. Before I get started, I just want to put a bit of context as what we're going to be talking about today. So 12 months ago, Fitness Australia launched two surveys out to firstly, the wider sector, asking and assessing the appetite for regulation in our sector. And the second survey was for members only. With that first survey we sent out on regulation, the message that came back was very strong in that there was a strong, I guess, interest, appetite for increased governance, increased standards, increased professionalism, increased auditing, increased oversight. And we can read that as, I guess, a strong appetite for potentially regulation. The second survey we put out was for our members, and the strongest message that came back from our members was, we love the advocacy you're doing, Fitness Australia, and you need to keep doing that, but please start advocating on behalf of your members, not the wider sector, because there are too many non-members out there coattailing on the good work we are doing. Those two surveys had significant input in what I'm going to be presenting to you today, as did, of course, ongoing discussions over the last 12 months with members at various members' briefings around the country before we were all put into lockdown, via email, via web chats like this. And what I'm going to present to you today, I hope, is excite you, interest you, and get you galvanised to move forward. So today I'm going to present to you the repositioning and rebranding of Fitness Australia. This is not just a rebranding. We are not doing a Facebook changing our name to Meta. We are doing something strategically quite different that involves a renaming and a rebranding. But before I get into that, let's go back to 20 months ago, back to March last year, when we all remember with a great deal of shock that without any consultation, with 24 hours notice, our facilities were shut, along with bars, cafes, restaurants, hotels, cinemas, casinos, brothels, call it what you like. And since then, we have had to deal with, in many occasions, a very negative commentary coming from chief health officers, premiers, politicians, in some cases the media, not very often, where basically our business has been trashed. And it's no wonder that many people have chosen to leave the sector, given the way that our profession has been so poorly represented in the wider community. So let's have a look at how that happened. And I guess in a way, we need to understand how this did happen. We know in our industry that we operate very much on those images on the left-hand side. The imagery, our industry has transitioned and evolved from the early days when it was perhaps full of bodybuilding and a lot of men looking at themselves in mirrors and so on, to now being much more one of well-being and wellness. We have more female members now, and that's growing. But nevertheless, that old perception, that old imagery has been used against us over the last 20 months. We may not like it, but we need to face up to facts. To put that into some context, the current Federal Minister for Sport and Recreation, where gyms sit, has a very poor view of our sector. The previous CEO of Sport Australia also had a very poor view of our sector. Only this week, I was having discussions with New South Wales Health to try and get the group sizes raised in the state. And one of the comments that came back to me was, well, we know that gyms are high risk. Now, I challenged that statement straight away, because what we do know is you're 5 times more likely to get the virus in a hospitality venue than in a COVID-safe environment in a gym. But nevertheless, these are the realities. We may not like what we're being told. We may not like the imagery that's being used against us, the stereotyping, the trashing of our brand. But these are people who have the capacity and have demonstrated over the last 20 months, they have the ability to make decisions which influence on our operations and our future viability and so on. So taking into account those two surveys I mentioned at the start, taking into account what we've dealt with over the last 20 odd months, taking into account all the meetings I've had with state departments, health departments, premiers, ministers, etc., we decided that we needed to do something. Fitness Australia could sit back and just sort of say and hope and pray that things would go back to normal. But things will not be going back to normal. And even if they did, what's to stop a COVID 26, 32, whatever happening in the future, let alone another variant that might come up at the moment. So we believe as an association, we will be beholden on us to actually make sure that we took the initiative and showed leadership for the sector and actively, strategically tried to reposition us, including that rebranding. So why are we doing it now as we're still coming out of lockdowns? Well, there's a few factors in our favour here. The first one is elections. Between now and May next year, there will be a federal election. You only have to read the media, watch the TV news every night, and you will see that a default, I guess a phantom election has already started. The Prime Minister and the opposition are already trying out new slogans and so on. So we think they need to get, as part of this discussion, part of the policy making, the whole idea of getting Australia exercising again, participating in physical activity again, realising that exercise is essential, realising the importance of what we can do to assist with the country's physical and mental health issues. We want to get it onto the election agenda as a policy discussion issue. To that end, we've had some meetings already with Mark Butler's office. Mark Butler is the Shadow Minister for Health in the federal opposition. We've also had meetings with the Coalition, and we're trying to get a meeting before Parliament stops sitting later next week for the Christmas break. But there's an opportunity now to get our policies, our thoughts, our potential, our participation into the political debate. It's also appropriate because at the moment, fitness and health are top of mind. We've known during COVID, we've heard ad nauseum, we could only go outside during the lockdowns for 4 reasons: critical shopping for food, etc., medical appointments, if we couldn't work from home, and to exercise. Now, no one I heard say actually said go outside for fitness. They all said go outside for exercise. Initially, it started off with go outside to keep yourself physically okay. But as the COVID lockdowns persisted, particularly in Victoria and New South Wales, that message became go outside to look after your mental health as well. Mental health is now a national priority. Don't take my word for it. The Treasurer, Frydenberg, when he announced the budget this year, earlier on this year, indicated that mental health was a national priority. He then proceeded to commit billions more dollars for mental health services. And those of you who've heard me talk before will know I have absolutely no problems with money going to mental health services. The problem I have is that the government should be spending at least some money in preventing those problems before they become a problem and people have to use those services. In other words, preventative health. In other words, a public health campaign to get people more active more often, exercising, participating in physical activity. And that leads me to GAPA. 3 years ago this month, 3 years ago, the federal government signed up to an international campaign being coordinated by the World Health Organization to get 15% more Australians more active by 2030. That was fantastic. They put the pen to paper. But since then, over the last 3 years, they have done absolutely nothing. We need to get the government, we need to hold the government to account. We need them to activate that GAPA program. And we believe the new strategic position of Fitness Australia can work with the government to make that happen. The government has a budgetary problem. And that's no surprise to anybody. COVID has been huge cost to the taxpayer, to the government, and will be for the foreseeable future. Research we have just completed with Deakin University to look at the impact of COVID on our businesses and on the wider community clearly shows and demonstrates the value of spending money in preventative health and public health campaigns, including vouchers, to get people active again. For every dollar spent in an effective public health campaign, encouraging people to exercise and partake in physical activity, for every dollar spent, there is a return or a saving to the government of between $3 and $6. That is a significant saving and it's ongoing. That will help with the government budgetary situation, both state and federally. The last thing in our favour at the moment is the Olympic Games coming in 10 years' time in Southeast Queensland. And that's fantastic for the country. That's really, really good news, because there'll be an interest and a focus on sport, particularly elite sport. And some of that interest will sort of trickle down to physical activity and exercise. That's the good part of it. The bad part of it is that the Sport and Rec Department budgets for the next 10 years are primarily going to be directed to elite sports and getting gold medals in 10 years' time in Southeast Queensland to create photo opportunities for politicians, which is good for them, not so good for the community. Speaking about sport and rec, you may not be aware, but gyms, and when I use the term gyms, I mean all modalities that take place indoors. So we're talking about yoga, dance, Pilates, CrossFit, martial arts, the gyms, leisure centres and health clubs we know. They are all categorised by the government as a gym. So when we were shut down, so are all those modalities. Now, as it turns out, as we've learned, in every state jurisdiction and federal jurisdiction, our sector, along with all the other modalities, sit under sport and rec. And that's because they didn't know where to put us. So they put us under sport and rec. But we are not sport. We are health. And being under sport actually reinforces poor imagery and sort of shuts us off from mainstream debate. It also, unfortunately, means that we can't tap into government funding to get this country moving again, because exercise programs actually will sit under health more than sport. So we've got to get away from sport. Their focus for the next 10 years will be on gold medals. They don't have a lot of money anyway, so we've got to get away from there and reposition ourselves across the Department of Health. Now, it's interesting, over the last 20 months, I've had over 50 meetings with various government departments, health departments, politicians, premiers, etc. Over 50. Only 2 of those have been with sport and rec departments. The rest have been with departments of health, as we've negotiated and worked out effective COVID-safe protocols to enable our facilities to reopen, enable our personal trainers to start operating again in the parks, etc. And a common message from those health departments was they didn't, up until COVID, they didn't understand the value of our industry to the nation's health. And that's partly because we were considered under sport and rec. They didn't understand it. They welcomed and understood much more the importance of our industry and our sector to the nation's health. They basically reached out to us and said, come with us, come to health. We need to take that invitation, embrace it, and jump across to health. It's no coincidence that in Queensland, where we were the first industry to have a COVID-safe protocol endorsed by the Queensland Health Department, they also last week recognised gyms as an essential service. Let's just pause there for a minute. An essential service. They've actually broken gyms away from the hospitality sector and all those other categories that they lumped us with 20 months ago. Only in one state, admittedly, but we now have essential service recognition in one state of Australia. That is a huge step forward, and I'd like to believe that's certainly a result of something to do with the advocacy that Fitness Australia has been demonstrating over the past 20 months. During the past 20 months also, because all those other modalities were shut down with us, it became apparent that particularly yoga and dance and Pilates were really struggling to get any traction with the media with advocacy. Those organisations are small, often run by primarily volunteers with very small paid staff. They don't have a strong advocacy ability. So they've reached out to us and we've supported their interest in our advocacy as well. So you would have seen a switch, or I guess a nuance in our advocacy over the 20 months, where we started talking about the importance of yoga and dance studios and Pilates studios being able to open up as well. So we've been working really closely with those associations. That relationship has really strengthened. And I'd like to think moving forward that those relationships will become even more formalised as we operate and move forward into the future, unifying other modalities under what we currently know as Fitness Australia. So the time is right, certainly for us, we believe now, to reposition our sector. And as I said, that repositioning includes a new brand and a new name. And that new brand and new name is AUS Active. AUS Active, representing the logo there, representing the national default colours of Australia, green and gold. The logo represents stepping up, progress. It represents diversity of shape. It represents a flag we can all get behind and rally behind, a movement for movement. AUS Active will be activating everybody, every way, every day. When I talk about everybody, I'm not talking about just my body and your body. I'm talking about every government body, every association that wants to partner with us, every local government, every council, all the rest of those organisations out there that want to partner with us, activating everybody, every way, every day. I'd like to share with you now a very short video to put what I've just been saying into some context. Okay, I hope that short video gives you a sense of the energy and excitement we certainly have been working on for the last few months here at Fitness Australia. No longer to be called Fitness Australia, of course, but now to be called AUS Active, as we activate everybody, every way, every day. And the whole idea of this new brand and logo is to be more inclusive, because what we did hear from those other modalities who wanted to work with us closely was that our name Fitness Australia was problematic. Let me explain that to you. Yoga and Pilates particularly don't see themselves as part of the fitness environment. They see themselves as movement. In fact, some of them don't even see themselves as exercise. But it became really apparent that the word fitness was rather exclusive rather than inclusive. It became really important to us. If we want to reach out seriously and embrace these other modalities, we needed to put our money where our mouth was and basically demonstrate that we were opening up what was Fitness Australia into now AUS Active to welcome and embrace all those other modalities that want to join with us and unite with us to create that uniting body for the health of Australia. So we've changed our name. Fitness was a problematic word. It was more exclusive rather than inclusive. It was seen by some people as elitist even, not mainstream. So AUS Active is the new name. AUS Active is the new brand. And that is particularly designed to appeal to those other modalities and reposition us, as I said before. With those new modalities, we recently just launched an aqua exercise category. We have also launched, as of softly earlier on this month, but formally from today, new categories for yoga and Pilates businesses, and also new categories for yoga and Pilates professionals to actually join with us and strengthen us. And so we can work together collectively, collaboratively. Those new modalities, we are welcoming you now to come into AUS Active under the new umbrella. Thanks, Luke. So with this new strategy, we have 4 target audiences, and this is going to bring us back to where I started with the 2 surveys we ran late last year. The 4 target audiences are our existing members, because we want to give those existing members a competitive advantage. When I go and do my food shopping local supermarket, I look out for the sugar content. I look out for the 5-star food rating. When I bought a new washing machine earlier on this year, I looked out for the signage on the washing machine which said how much water was used. We want to give our members, you, a competitive advantage as we move forward under the AUS Active brand. We want to give other modalities and other potential members who may be thinking about joining AUS Active a sense of united purpose and power, so that they join us knowing that they are part of a strong organisation that is going to make change in our community and for the nation's future. We want to give everyday consumers a sense of confidence. When they come into our facilities, when they use one of our personal trainers, our yoga teachers, our Pilates teachers, they know that that business, that individual is concerned about their well-being and welfare, is operating COVID-safe protocols, has a code of practice, has a code of ethics, is governed by an organisation as in AUS Active, has their standards audited. We really want our consumers to feel confident to come into our doors. We also want the government to feel confident that they can work with us. We want health funds to feel confident they can work with us, local government and all the rest of it. We want to give that sense of confidence. Now, the last target audience, as I briefly touched on before, is the government. 3 years ago, as I said, they signed up to GAPA. They've done nothing since. We believe that AUS Active provides for them a solution to get that GAPA active. We want the government to view AUS Active, if not as the critical partner, at least a critical partner in activating the community, getting exercise back on the agenda, getting physical activity back on the agenda to get people moving again, because we know this country has huge physical and mental problems exacerbated by COVID as we come out of COVID. We want to work with the government. We want the government to fund us as well, to activate the community and get us all moving again, because we know that the more people that actually start exercising and participating in physical activity, the more will actually join or consider joining one of our facilities or using one of our personal trainers. And that's why that badge of confidence must be there. And just on that issue, the research we just commissioned has shown that in Australia, over 50% of Australians over the age of 15 who identify as partaking in exercise and physical activity, that's 50% of Australians over the age of 15 who identify as exercising, do so in a gym. That's backed up by data from AusPlay, which is a semi-government agency, where they indicated in their report that 7.2 million Australians go to the gym. Not 7.2 million Australians making up 4 million that go 2 or 3 times. These are 7.2 million Australians over the age of 15 who go to a gym. That represents 35% of the population in Australia of age over 15. We have been grossly underestimating the ability, our potential, our participation, our impact in the community. When I first started here 3 years ago, I heard that we had a 20% membership rate in Australia and it could never exceed that. Well, guess what? It's already exceeded that, and it was way before then. We need to leverage that 35%. That is powerful information to take to the government, along with their economic argument that they need to be working with us to activate the community. We're going to start our campaign through a social media in January and in February. We've chosen those months for 2 reasons. First of all, we need to transition fully what was Fitness Australia to AUS Active with our membership, with you guys. We need to get out to our businesses, new signage. We need to get you hopefully encouraged to put the new signage on your clothing, on your chest or your sleeve, whatever. But we're going to start the campaign in January, February, because that's when it is summer. People are on holidays, they're thinking about New Year's resolutions, the media is looking for stories. It's a good time for us to get ready to go to launch publicly with a social media campaign late January, early February. And that comes back to the initial comments about the member survey. Remember the member survey? Your members told us we need a consumer campaign. The consumer campaign starts early next year. It would have been pointless to start a consumer campaign under Fitness Australia when we're going to change our name to AUS Active, as it turns out. That social media campaign will go for at least 3 to 5 years. My board has allocated funding towards that. We'll be working very closely with corporate partners and other interested partners to actually see if they will fund us to increase that campaign to make it more visible. Of course, if we can get the government to come on board as well, then the campaign can go into more highly visible avenues like streetscapes, bus packs, train stations, all the rest of it. But it will start with social media initially, and then hopefully roll out to further things. Activating everybody, every way, every day. And we'll be working very closely, progressively, to make sure the imagery we use in the future is actually reflective of everybody, every ability, and all Australians, rather than what we have been guilty of in the past. So the consumer campaign will start then. Thanks, Luke. The consumer campaign is going to be built on what came out of that regulation survey that we talked about right at the start of this short presentation. If you remember, I said there was an appetite for regulation. So my board discussed the potential for us mandating regulation, at least for our members. And we decided that whereas that may be possible, it probably wasn't the best thing to do. Mandating regulation is a very hard thing to do. And I guess I've got a wry smile on my face at the moment because I only have to look at the media today to see what happens when it's talking about mandating vaccinations. We didn't want to mandate and cause a problem for our industry, cause disharmony, cause friction. We want to work with all of our interested partners and people who want to work with us to make this happen. So we're not going to go through regulation. Rather, we're going to go to accreditation, an optional accreditation program. At the end of the day, it'll end up in the same place. But an optional accreditation program means that people opt in. They're not mandated to do anything that they don't wish to do. And that's going to start off with, I can announce today that we have signed an agreement with Medibank, and Medibank are going to recognise all of our personal trainers with a Cert 4 or above as registered providers under Medibank's scheme. That will start next month in December. So every personal trainer with a Cert 4 or above will be able to register as a Medibank provider. We are the only association that Medibank are going to do this with in our sector. They already recognise ESSA in allied health. They're working with Fitness Australia, or now AUS Active, because they know it's AUS Active, to make sure that we can work with them as well. So every personal trainer, Cert 4 and above, registered as a provider. There is a proviso with that, guys. All of those personal trainers will have 12 months to become accredited by AUS Active. In that 12-month period, they will be able to, in their own time, work through our accreditation program to become accredited by AUS Active. That will give them a AAA rating, AUS Active accreditation. The accreditation program has taken into account what Medibank need and want to give them confidence so they can give their clients confidence. That accreditation program we have been piloting for the last 18 months. We've got it sorted out now, and you can go online later on, tomorrow, or whatever, to have a look at what that means. The accreditation program is available to our members at no cost. This is not a fundraising exercise. This is a program to raise standards, to raise professionalism, to differentiate our members, AUS Active members, from non-members, to give the consumer confidence, to give Medibank confidence, to give Medibank's clients confidence, to give the government confidence. So the accreditation program, it is optional. So personal trainers in the future can be registered with AUS Active or accredited by AUS Active. Similarly, we've been working as well with a small group of businesses to develop a certification program. This will be ready to roll out early next year. And again, this certification program is optional. It is not mandatory. So businesses will have the option of joining with AUS Active as a registered business, a certified business, or going through to the full accreditation we currently operate. And again, can I repeat, that certification is not at no cost to our members. Again, it is not fundraising. This is about lifting standards. This is about repositioning AUS Active in a totally different environment, in a totally different situation when we have the next COVID or something in the future, so we don't have the same problems again. This is about professionalisation. This is about raising standards and giving everybody confidence, our members confidence, and people encouraged to join to get that confidence, our clients, and obviously our key partners. Quality assurance, certification, accreditation. Thanks, Luke. So here we have Joe Bloggs, whatever his name might be, wearing on his clothing the AUS Active brand. And we are going to make this branding free of charge for our members, obviously. And we would really, really encourage you to think seriously about joining this movement, to actually identify as being part of AUS Active. Because ultimately, if we get 20,000 personal trainers that have this badging on their clothing, after they finish run their session in the park or in the gym and they go shopping at Coles or Woolies or Aldi, wherever you go, what's going to happen is that people are going to see it. They're going to see that logo. It may even cause a conversation at the checkout. It might be an opportunity for you to actually generate some new business. It's called top of mind. The more people we get out seeing this, we're going to have 20,000 mobile billboards advertising AUS Active. So what it's going to look like is that. And you'll be able to get that at no cost for your clothing. So please, please get on board with this. I understand in the past that being identified with Fitness Australia was not something that maybe had any value. But if we're going to really try and get this brand out there, to give the consumer confidence, to give the government, everybody else confidence, we have to get the brand out there. If you can join with us and support us, not only benefiting yourself, you're benefiting every other member of AUS Active. We're also asking our businesses to do the same thing. Now, in the past, we used to give our businesses that to put on their businesses. And you know what? Probably 98% of the businesses got that in their mail and put it straight into the bin. And do I blame them? Not at all, because that particular signage tells the reader absolutely nothing. They don't understand what it means. However, a sign like this one here, your business, your RTO, your equipment supplier, whatever, is partnering with AUS Active in activating our nation, is a moral cause to get behind. This is an altruistic campaign. You are going to be seen to be supporting an organisation that has not just got its members' interests obviously at heart, but has got the wider community's interests at heart to get a fitter, healthier country. So again, the more facilities, the more suppliers, the more RTOs that are prepared to co-badge with us and get this message out, they have a moral cause there behind, the movement for movement, but they also have a direct commercial outcome, because quite clearly, the more people that recognise that, the more people that are actually going to go to that RTO, go to that gym, go to that Pilates studio, go to that personal trainer. Now, we know that most people, when they start a new exercise program for the first time, usually go to a place or a personal trainer that's been referred to them by a friend, a work colleague, a neighbour, a family member, because we know word of mouth is the most possible most effective, strongest advertising you can get. But hopefully, if we're successful, let me say, when we are successful in getting this happening in our wider community, there'll be a number of Australians who'll be looking for a service, a personal trainer, a yoga teacher, a Pilates instructor, who won't have a point of reference. So their point of reference is going to become this sign, because they will know this sign has credibility. This sign has rigor. They can go in and use that facility. They can engage with that trainer, that teacher with confidence, because they're going to know that that person, that facility is interested in their personal well-being and is going to look after them and is going to operate in a COVID-safe way, again, with a code of practice and code of ethics, etc. We are really, really excited about this. And I really need to, I guess, acknowledge the fantastic Fitness Australia staff that have really been burning the midnight oil to make this happen and ready to launch with you today. I really, really hope that you share and enjoy and will get involved in this excitement, understand why we're excited. This is the most significant day, in my view, in Fitness Australia's, what used to be Fitness Australia's, old history. We are moving forward. We are going to be a key partner. We are going to demonstrate to the wider community the value of involving and participating with us, the importance of exercise being essential, the importance of governments actually putting money behind signing agreements and working with community organisations that have the best interests of their members, the community and the country at heart. I really, really hope that all of you appreciate this, support this and get on board. I think Luke is going to put on a poll shortly to give you an idea, to give us an idea, there it is now, of what you think. I'm hoping, seriously, that most of you will tip the top box or the next one underneath that, but we're excited. This is really a great change for this organisation. This is really a great way for us to move forward. This is a great way for us to control the debate, what happens with us in the future, how we are perceived by key stakeholders and policymakers. The future's in our hands, guys. I really encourage you to jump on board. Thank you.